The midterms are over, and we look and see where the chips have finally fallen as we look into several of the tightly contested races and where we will stand as all of the things come back down. So we'll go over some of that, what that means, and where it goes from there. We are putting focus on, of course, the Wisconsin race because I am in Wisconsin. The Florida race, the Arizona race is going to be in big focus for both the Senate and the governor's mansion. So we'll go over some of that. And as we get down towards the end, another hurricane is set to hit Florida. So we'll be talking about that and what that means. It is going to be all this and more. Welcome into the new congressional term. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Wow, what a night. And I mean, you can kind of tell at this point that I didn't get to bed until midnight and probably later after I got everything cleaned up and done. But, you know, long stream, good stream. What did we go? 6 p.m., 7 p.m.? 6 p.m. is what, yeah, when we started. 6 p.m. until almost 11, 5 hours going off of that. And just seeing some of the things that went out of there. We had some fun. We had some not so much fun with some new friends who decided to join the Discord and decided they wanted to go get everything down and out. It does look like I still have a YouTube channel and a Discord channel. I'm actually a little bit surprised by that. After everything, or not Discord, but Twitch channel. After everything they tried to come back and get across my off my speakers here, yeah, I'm very surprised by the fact that they didn't come back and try to take my Twitch down as well. But I do think that in some understanding, it does look like, you know, this was not of doing of my own, but this was the doing of somebody else. But I might take that VOD down just for the sake of the fact that we did get hammered with that. So there was that, but yeah, this did not go the way that I expected it to. And I mean, we'll go over some of what we're seeing with this, and I think there is a little bit of honk. I'm not going to lie. I don't think they could honk it as much as they wanted it to, but I do think there's going to be a little bit of honk. As of right now, my prediction, just looking at this and looking what's going over the top of this, it does look like this is going to be a 2 gubernatorial loss, which really prevents the states from coming back out and taking power. And I think that's a lot of what this midterm came out to be, is the fact that more and more is moving away from the federal level and more of it's moving in towards the states. As we start to see states who say that, no, we're not going to enforce these unconstitutional laws that you're putting down on people. So if your federal agents come in here, they will be escorted out of our states. And, you know, I'm talking about things like the drug war. I'm talking about things like the gun war. I'm talking about a lot of things like that, but really, honestly, the first thing that I can say looking at this at the end is the polling definitely does not match what happened last night. So I have questions, obviously. Where are we getting all these numbers from, and where is it going from that? But we'll be talking about that as we go through the individual races over here on Contemporary. Before we get started, do make sure you guys go check out great programming, such as the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, the Porch Boys. Go check out Overruled with KTZed, Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior over on Twitch, PJ Patriot, and the No Gimmicks podcast. Go check out all that great programming. They are great people who are out, in spite of the fact that most of America seems to want to get everything from a centralized point. They still want to bring you news decentralized from the common man for the common man. So go and check all of them out. They're great people, and we will see what is happening with this. And we're actually going to start again with finance, because we always start with finance. On the Dow, looking in at the Dow, the Dow is to 33,160.83 yesterday, and that was after taking a pretty significant dump throughout the day and then clawing its way back. A lot of what was driving the sentiment on the Dow is that it looked like it was going to be a split government, and right now, I mean, as we see and as the chips continue to fall, we will see if there is more going on with that and if there's going to be a split government. The thing that gets me is if we get a government that is controlled in legislative avenues by Republicans, even by the slightest margins, and then with an executive who will veto everything else, our government's at a standstill at this point. Now, some of the questions may arise over what happens with the debt default, depending on who shows up from MAGA into the House of Representatives and who's just going to sign off on whatever it is that party line leadership or Nancy Pelosi wants to get through, or whatever Biden wants to get through, because we can't shut down the government. That's going to be a question that comes up throughout the next 2 years, by the way. But as we look at this, the fact that the spending will stop, the inflation will stop, the fire hose will stop, and many of us peons, many of us little people can get back into our markets because the Fed doesn't have to have the rates jacked as high as they'll have them. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, this might look good for investment, depending on, again, where the house goes, because they hold the purse strings. But we'll continue to watch this and see what's happening with this. Looking in at your Bitcoin, and all I can say with that is if you hold Bitcoin, or you want to hold Bitcoin, it's on sale right now. So we are at 17,418.60. That is down on the day today, just on the day, $1,128 and 90 US cents. 6% reduction in Bitcoin just on the day. Pulling this out to 5 days to see where some of the bleeding started here, and it looks like throughout the day yesterday, it looks like it took a spike right as we were starting to get midterm results, and then fell off throughout the day as things started looking in a different direction than what they were seeing, bringing us down to where we are at. Now, as far as where this goes, this is not official financial advice. But if you are thinking about a Bitcoin IRA, I would talk to your financial advisor and say, should I do this? Because I'm almost guaranteeing that he's going to say at this point, no. Now, for me, picking up Bitcoin is grabbing a $20 bill and finding a new service to pay it into Coinbase for, because I cut my PayPal. Sorry, Scooby-Doo. And I, of course, because I didn't get out of here until 11 last night, I did not look into a new payment method, but thank you, Scooby-Doo, for that. But looking in at this, like for me to throw a $20 bill at Bitcoin just for the fun of it, to see what it does, I mean, that's not going to be a big thing, but I'm not going to put thousands of dollars of Roth IRA into it either right now. That's what I'm not going to do. And, you know, again, I've got this feeling your financial advisor would tell you the same thing. I can't speak for your financial advisor because I'm not an official financial advisor, but I got this feeling looking at these numbers and looking what it did as things started looking much, much more even for the government. That's telling me that that's probably telling the Bitcoin people that there's more appetite for regulation and heavy regulation, which means that there's less appetite for the Wild West aspect of what Bitcoin was billed as. Not saying that's what it is, but what it was billed as. But that's what we have for that. But again, that's one thing that we're going to watch, because we continue to watch this, being one of the more liquid assets, and I know that Ron Helton takes issue with me saying it's an asset, but being one of the more liquid assets that's out there means it's the first one that people can turn into cash when they need cash right now, which tells me that that's a very good indicator of where the short term is going to go with the economy. So that's why we continue to watch this one. Looking in at gas in the Madison area, Both the quick trips have dropped to 360. The Speedway is down on a 390. All the 4s are gone. Well, except for the quick trip and the Amico on the Isthmus. Those are at 374. But all the 4s in the first digit are gone at this point. So we'll see what happens with this. Bit of advice. Not official financial advice again. Watch your tank and watch your level, because I am anticipating seeing some spike coming back out of this price as some of the travel seasons come off of this. So we will see what's happening with that and where we go with that. From IBD, Dow futures fall as election results filter in. Elon sells more Tesla stock. From Scott Latonin, Dow futures eased on Wednesday morning as pre-market trade showed little reaction to early U.S. election results, which showed Republicans favored to win a narrow House majority, but short of expectations. Hong Kong. Tesla stock rose after chief executive Elon Musk sold almost $4 billion worth of Tesla shares in early November. Dow Jones media giant Disney dove nearly 8% in a surprise earnings miss. Disney earnings were expected to jump 48% to 56 cents per share on revenue of $21.3 billion. Instead, the company's earnings fell to 30 cents per share on sales of $20.5 billion. Meta rallied nearly 6%, leading the NASDAQ in early trade. The company announced it would lay off about 13% of workforce and narrowed its 2023 revenue guidance between $34 billion and $37 billion versus earlier guidance of $34 billion to $39 billion. Key earnings movers Wednesday were Array Technologies, Disney, Lucid Motors, and Warren Buffett stock Occidental Petroleum. Array soared more than 20%, while Lucid Motors skidded more than 7%. Occidental lost 1.5% in early morning trade. Tesla traded up 1.3% Tuesday. Dow tech leaders Apple and Microsoft were squarely lower ahead of today's stock market open. Among the top stocks to buy and watch, Albemarle, IBD leaderboard watchlist stock Arista Networks, and CF Industries, as well as Merck and United Health, are among the top stocks to buy and watch. Arista is an IBD leaderboard stock. Albemarle was featured in this week's Stocks Nearby Zone column, along with 3 other top stock ideas. United Health was IBD's stock of the day on Thursday. On the futures, ahead of Wednesday's opening bell, the Dow futures fell 0.3 while the S&P moved down 0.2. The Nasdaq lost 0.15 in morning action, with China-based names taking 4 of the indices' 5 hardest hits in the early trade. The mild response to the stocks on Tuesday, still developing election tally, could show the results already baked into valuations. It may also suggest markets are more interested in the next round of key inflation data due out Thursday morning. Among the ETFs, the Nasdaq Invesco QQQ Trust traded down less than 0.1 on early Tuesday, and the SPDR S&P 500 trimmed its early losses to 0.1. The 10-year yield held steady around 4.13% on Wednesday, pausing after Tuesday's fall to 4.12%. Meanwhile, oil prices traded down nearly 2%, with West Texas Intermediate falling below $88 a barrel. Weekly industry data released late Tuesday showed that crude inventories increased more than expected. As official weekly numbers are due out at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Last week, WTI futures hit their highest point since mid-October, but have since retreated. Did somebody get intelligent enough to go drilling for oil? That's my big question with that. We will see what's happening with that. But with that done, we're going to go right into what I'm pretty sure we're all here for. And hopefully now with the Discord fixed, thank you Sewell for fixing that part of the Discord, so we don't have text-to-speech anymore. Let's have a look at what happened last night. So I've got the Google map that I was using for most of the night up here, and we are looking at that. But I've also got a couple tweets afterwards that make me think that there might have actually been a little bit of honk. And some of this was expected as it went. The Senate, as it stands right now, the GOP has lost a seat, although I'm not sure which one they lost, because it does look like everything that they had and previously had is still in GOP hands right now. The Wisconsin race, which we'll be talking about in depth right now, is too close to call with 99% reporting and a 27 vote deficit, 27,000 vote deficit for Mandela Barnes, who is an awful candidate. My only wish right now is that would have gone up ballot to Tony Evers, who was more responsible, arguably, for what happened in Kenosha than Mandela Barnes even was. Around the rest of the country, still in play, Nevada. Although that looks like that is probably going to go red with an over 2% lead for Adam Laxalt. Now, as far as Nevada goes, I don't know if this goes to a runoff at this point, because that's going to be one of the things that we see in Georgia. I don't know which states have runoffs and which don't. I know Wisconsin does not, so what happens in this night, and I mean, we're outside of runoff territory anyway, but whatever happens here in Wisconsin is what happens. Nevada, nobody has reached 50%, so that may lead us into runoff territory, and we will see what happens with that, and that may be why they haven't called it, with a clear almost 3% lead going into this, with 72% reporting. Alaska is going to be a GOP seat, no matter what, because Kelly Baca and Lisa Murkowski are running head-and-head against each other. It would be nice to see Murkowski actually knocked off, though. Looking in back over to the blue side with the ones that are still in play, we have got Arizona with Chairman Kelly having a full 6% lead with 63% reporting. I do have questions about this, and we will be talking about this and the voting machines that went along with that. And Georgia, which has, I mean, that's still within a point, and it does look like this is going to go out into a runoff. So we will see what happens with this. And with the runoff, it'll be interesting to see where the votes go, because the Libertarian candidate for Georgia will not be on the ballot. Let me zoom in on this one here. And as you can see, Chase Oliver for the Libertarian Party, which is a win, came out with 80,000 votes. And if you apply that to Walker, which I think the vast majority of that would have gone to Walker if Oliver had not been on the ballot, because Warnock is very, very socialistic and very, very huge government-minded, and I've got this feeling the people that voted for Chase Oliver are not into that. Now, mind you, Herschel Walker is a cop, so I can't say that all of these people would have gone there, and some of them probably would have stayed home for this, but I do think that would have been enough to carry Mr. Walker up over this if it had gone that way. Of course, none of us has a crystal ball. We can't look at this. There's no Santeria going on here. But that's what we have for that. Looking at the House. Dang it. That's right, I can't back button out of this. Looking at the House results. GOP is at 199 with 19 more needed for the majority, and I think that they have enough hanging out there still to pull that to Democrats 172. I think this is going to go a very, very narrow House majority for the GOP, which is weird because, again, with the congressional ballot being the way that it was, it does look more like this should have been an absolute blowout for the GOP. Part of the reason that I have some questions about this and what this means. A lot of California is still too close to call. A lot of Arizona is still too close to call at this point. My state has 2 Democratic seats in, surprise, surprise, Madison and Milwaukee. But everything else is going red. And District 3 going red, that's a pickup for the GOP right there. Because District 3 is a historically blue seat. It's had the same representative, a Democrat from La Crosse, for my entire life, as far back as I can remember. I can remember going to school and seeing a big billboard every other year, going into the small town that I went to high school in that had Ron Kine's name on it. Every other year for my entire life, and he's still the representative there. Of course, he got into a little bit of trouble with some some rub and tug joints over in La Crosse, and now he's disgraced. But with the redistricting too, it does look like they picked up some of the Portage area, because this district didn't used to come up and kick up like this. It did just used to come down here. But regardless, yeah, Madison and Milwaukee are going to be the only two Democrat seats in Wisconsin as far as we're seeing right here. And there's enough red to pull those 19 extra seats, it looks like. So we will see what happens with that and where we go with that. I will be interested to see what the final number is for the House. Governor's races. Somehow, Ron Johnson could not carry up ballot to Tim Michels, and Tim Michels actually did concede. So Tony Evers will continue to be the governor of Wisconsin. Boo! Hochul pulling out a victory within 5 points, which we'll be talking about that more in depth because that's a loss, regardless, for New York. And if I was a New York Democrat, I would be calling everybody that I know back to Albany and saying, hey, we got to figure out what's going on with this. Because the next time we might not be so lucky. Phil Scott and Chris Sununu both holding on to their seats, both of them Democrats in Republican clothing. Abbott having a blowout night against Beto, but probably not as much as I think he should have been. 20 points over Christ for Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSanctimonious, that guy. Brian Kemp having a good night as well. Kevin Stitt having a good night in Oklahoma, Idaho. Nevada looking like Joe Lombardo is going to wind up being the governor of Nevada, and Kari Lake and Katie Hobbs within a point of each other. Also Mike Dunleavy and Les Gara. And yeah, Mike Dunleavy's got that one walking away. Look at that, those numbers there. So that is where we are as far as the gubernatorial races go and where we go with that. So let's look at some of these tweets that I promised right off the beginning. First off, Lindy Lee trying to make the two parties aren't exactly the same fallacy, which I did comment on and set the record straight for. Lindy Lee tweets out, Beto O'Rourke graciously conceded tonight. Stacey Abrams graciously conceded, which she doesn't point out whether or not that was Stacey Abrams conceding for what the hell year was it, 2018 or 2022? Because one of the two she has yet to concede for. And I don't know which one it is. Tim Ryan graciously conceded. Demings graciously conceded. It's been 736 days since Trump lost. But we're not counting her anything. As of today, he's still refusing to acknowledge his defeat. Which is actually not true because he did concede. When did he concede? That was early January. I think it was January 7th was when he did the concession. Don't you ever say the two parties are the same. And we do have the Tim Ryan concession, which we'll look at that in a second. But my comment on that, my 2 cents on this. The two parties are identical, failed human beings who couldn't make it in the real world, coming together to try to tell you how to live your life and punish people who don't agree with them ideologically. There is literally no difference, because the two parties are exactly the same. They believe in different things, but they are essentially the same. People who couldn't make it in the private sector, going out working on the government teat, and again, trying to tell the people who they don't agree with ideologically that you're a bad person and you should be in prison for believing what it is that you want, what you believe. Let's listen to Tim Ryan's concession. Timmy!
I have a privilege right now, a privilege, as someone who was the Democratic nominee. I have the privilege to concede this race to J.D. Vance because the way this country operates is that when you lose an election, you concede. And you respect the will of the people, right? We can't have a system where if you win, it's a legitimate election, and if you lose, someone stole it. That is not how we can move forward in the United States. This is an essential country, right? And I've said it all throughout the campaign. This is a country built on freedom. This is the essential nation versus China and Russia, countries that don't have freedom of speech, freedom of the press. They have ethnic cleansing. They put their political opponents in prison.
And that's going to be one of the things to watch as we come forward into all this, is the fact that the next big thing for everybody is, oh, well, we conceded. It's a little bit of the grift. Now, were they hoping that J.D. Vance would have done that? Well, the people on the ground were, but I think the people that were in the brass of the Democrat Party knew that that was a foregone conclusion. Ohio is turning redder and redder and redder by the moment, but now they want to, because of the big lie, and Trump never conceded, even though he did on January 7th of 2021. In spite of all that, they want to come out here and now parade all the people that didn't make it out there and show them, oh, we conceded. Look at how amazing we are. This is how you lose an election. The former guy didn't do that. And his lackeys didn't do that. Oh my God, Carrie Lake is questioning the election results in Arizona. She's going to try to sue. Oh my God. And the other one that kind of tells me that some of the fix was in for this is our good friend Jojo from Jers, who has to be spammed in everybody's feed because nobody would follow her otherwise. Good morning, Republicans. If you're just waking up and realizing there was no red wave, let me see if I can help you understand. You see, Americans have had just about enough of your election denying, Christo-fascist bullcrap, and they voted accordingly. Have a nice day. Honk honk. Twitter for iPhone. And it looks like some of these are blanked out, and I don't know why. But that's what we have for that. Looking at the Daily Wire. To start off, a little bit of analyses as we go here. My late start means that we're going to be behind the 8 ball for this, so we'll be skipping around a little bit. But Trump celebrates Republicans losing key U.S. Senate race. From Ryan Saavedra. Let me get this refreshed here. So we got the Cernovich tweet. There it goes. Former President Trump cheered as Republicans lost a potential pickup in the U.S. Senate Tuesday night. Trump made the shot on a social media platform against Joe O'Dea in Colorado as many Republicans across the country underperformed expectations. Joe O'Dea lost big, Trump said. Make America great again. O'Dea lost to incumbent U.S. Senator Michael Bennet in a race that had grown unexpectedly close in recent days, with RCP average recently indicating the race had moved from lean Democrat to a toss-up. Reporter Alex Rorty noted how Trump had approached the race versus how Florida Governor Ron DeSantis approached the race, going to the topic of conversation moving forward that Trump told his supporters not to vote for O'Dea while DeSantis recorded a robocall for him, Rorty tweeted. And that's going to... part of the problem is, I mean, this is going to be a person who's in it for himself. The Democrats are half right when they talk about this guy. This is a person who does expect loyalty and wants to have his people in. He does want to be the kingmaker for this. But regardless, I mean, some of these people are still going to have good ideas. And I'm not a Republican. by any stretch of the imagination. Although if you ask my detractors on Twitter, they will tell you a different story. Fascist, MAGA, Nazi, scum, far right, women enslaving is, my typical day over on Twitter. But regardless, some of them still have some good ideas, and my vote is going to go for the person who has the most comprehensive plan to keep the government at any level out of my life. But if I do have to have government, I would like it to be more local. My mayor, my county executive, the sheriff, those kind of people. And the people on the federal level, I don't care about, except insofar as the fact that they believe that the federal government should be controlling my life. Let's grab one from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. We'll start our analysis on Wisconsin. On the Senate side first, Ron Johnson, Mandela Barnes locked in a race too close to call in Wisconsin's U.S. Senate race from Bill Glauber, Mary Spicuzza, and Lawrence Andrea. Which, again, I think that they're going to try some sort of shenanigan with that one, because they haven't called it yet with 99% in and a clear 1% lead across. I don't think they can find enough ballots to pull Barnes up over the finish line at this point. Republican U.S. Senator Ron Johnson and Democratic challenger Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes were locked in a race that was too close to call early on Wednesday. With 93% of the vote in, Johnson had 50.7% of the vote to 49.3% for Barnes, a difference of nearly 40,000 votes. We've looked very closely at the numbers, Johnson told supporters in Neenah. We feel confident that there's no way they can make up the gap. Yeah, I think they just need to call that one and be done with it. Johnson said he was not going to declare victory until all the numbers were in, but said, I want to give you folks a sense that the race is over. Johnson added he was expected to declare victory later in the morning. Barnes' campaign spokeswoman, Maddie McDaniel, said in a statement, We always knew this race would be incredibly close. No matter what anyone says, we're committed to making sure every vote is counted. We will wait and see what the Wisconsin voters have decided after their voices are heard. The road to Election Day was dramatic, leading to a clash between the conservative 67-year-old Johnson and the liberal 35-year-old Barnes from Milwaukee. It began with Johnson publicly weighing for months whether to make the race, a move that would in effect see him breaking a pledge that he had made back in 2016 to serve only 2 terms. That is part of the reason that I didn't vote for him. Johnson, who often refers to himself as citizen legislature, he's not. He's a lesser of 2 evils, had emerged from the Tea Party movement and twice defeated Democrat Russ Feingold in 2010 and 2016. Again, we're sitting in a situation where they put up a terrible candidate and wondered why they lost. Although, Tammy Baldwin does exist, so do keep that in mind. But the landscape Johnson was operating in had changed dramatically over the course of the past several years. Republicans were swept from state offices in 2018, meaning Johnson had become the titular head of the party. Former President Trump's loss in 2020 further cemented Johnson's status as a state party leader and also stoked his determination to oppose President Biden's policy agenda. In January of 2022, Johnson made his move, joining the race as he explained, I believe America's in peril. Give me more power. Much as I like to ease a quiet retirement, I don't feel that I should. Yeah, forget about the promise that you made in 2016. Even as Democrats faced stiff political headwinds of their own, so did Johnson, as he became a lightning rod on key national issues, from the election to the selfie fest to promoting early, unproven treatments for the pink pill pox even before they had their candidate. Democrats and their allies pounded Johnson in ads, claiming that he was out for himself and his large donors, charges he denied. I don't think he is out for his large donors. I think that he is, again, right out for himself. And with Johnson, I couldn't do it for Ron Johnson. I debated it. I stood in the voting booth for much longer than anybody else around me. There were a couple voting booths next to me that had 3 people file in for them while I was just looking at the Wisconsin senatorial race. Again, would Mandela Barnes have been worse? Oh yeah. Uh-oh. Are we having some problems over this? I hear YouTube must be actively monitoring this stream. I don't know. Again, I'm still surprised that I have a Twitch after our friends came in and raided the Discord with the text-to-speech last night. But that's what we have for that. On the gubernatorial side, which I'm quite shocked that so many people, honk, voted for Ron Johnson that didn't, that also voted for Tony Evers. Tony Evers is projected to win re-election as Wisconsin governor. Let's have a listen to what my current governor and governor-to-be had to say.
Now, I did receive a phone call from Tim Michels conceding tonight's race. And I want to thank him and his family for a hard-fought campaign. So thank you, Tim Michels. So I'm excited to be here tonight to say that I'm Tony Evers, and I'm incredibly proud to be the 46th governor of the state of Wisconsin. And I'm jazzed as hell to tell you that on January 3rd, 2023,
somebody's knocking on my door.
I will still be the 46th governor of the great state of Wisconsin. Oh, holy mackerel, folks, how about that? You know, I stood here on this very same stage 4 years ago to the day, I believe, and I made a promise to the people of Wisconsin that I would never make promises I couldn't keep and that I always work for you. Over the past 4 years, I've worked hard to keep those promises and trying to do the right thing. That's who I am, folks, and that's what I've always been. Some people call it boring, but you know what, Wisconsin? As it turns out, boring wins. And Mr. Rogers is cool. Now, the truth of the matter is that I was standing here 4 years ago on the stage and tonight because of you. Now, I did receive a phone call from Tim Michels conceding tonight's race. And I want to thank him and his family for a hard-fought campaign. So thank you, Tim Michels. So I'm excited to be here tonight to say that I'm Tony Evers, and I'm incredibly proud to be the 46th governor of the state of Wisconsin. And I'm jazzed as hell to tell you that on January 3rd, 2023, I will still be the 46th governor of the great state of Wisconsin. Oh, holy mackerel, folks, how about that?
Looks like they must have circled that one back around. Yeah, the neighbor tapped on the door, so unfortunately I was not able to help at the moment, but that's what we have going with that. So yes, Evers is going to continue to be our governor, and that is lame. That is incredibly lame. From ABC 7, Democratic Wisconsin Governor Evers wins re-election, defeating foe he called democracy threat. From Scott Bauer by the Associated Press. Tony Evers defeated Republican Tim Michels to keep battleground Wisconsin under a Democratic governor heading into the 2022 presidential election, declaring his victory speech Wednesday that his win showed that voters wanted to protect democracy. No, that would be hegemony, not democracy that they're after. And interestingly enough, did I get that tweet up here? If not, I'm going to go find it really quick. Because there did seem to be a pattern with that, with the people that they picked. We've got Amony Resists over here, who tweeted this out. Because they're going down the list of the people who lost last night. Andrew Wortman. Well, I don't know who this person is, but he's another one that they like to spam into everybody's feeds. And I mean, as you can see, I don't follow this person, but he's constantly there no matter what. He says, every gubernatorial candidate who said they wouldn't have certified President Biden's victory in 2020 lost tonight. Arizona is yet to be called, but Hobbs has a gigantic lead over Lake. We'll be talking about that separately. But he's got Lake, Michels, Dixon, Michigan, Mastriano of Pennsylvania, Bailey of Illinois, Cox of Maryland, and Zeldin of New York. Where'd all these followers come from? I don't know what followers we're looking at. But yeah, we've got that. Evers argued that democracy was on the ballot. With Michels, no, hegemony was on the ballot. Who was endorsed by Trump and who had cast doubt on Joe Biden's 2020 presidential win in Wisconsin. Michels favored disbanding the state's Bipartisan Elections Commission and had promised to sign bills vetoed by Evers that would make it harder to vote absentee. Evers, in his victory speech, told his supporters that he was jazzed as hell by the outcome of the race. Holy mackerel, folks! How about that? Oh, yeah, we did just have a follow raid. It's a good thing I don't have auditory alerts up. But yes, for everybody else who just came in here, welcome. Respect the axe. Evers noted that he's frequently described as boring. That's the understatement of the year, but says, as it turns out, boring wins. Evers said his victory was a win for reproductive rights, public schools, clean energy, and continuing to invest in the state's infrastructure. You showed up because you saw our democracy was on the brink of existence. Hegemony, not democracy, hegemony. And you decided to do a damn thing about it. And here's where the editorialization comes in, because this is a Chicago-based publication, ABC 7. Evers' victory stood to guarantee the Democrats would still have a check on Republican power in the legislature as GOP attempts of winning enough seats to have a veto-proof supermajority look to be unsuccessful. Evers frequently touted the more than 120 vetoes he issued to block Republican legislation in his first term. And the big veto that they did in the form of shutting your agenda down, as far as the lockdowns go, including bills that would broaden gun rights, made it harder to get abortion and tougher to cast absentee ballots. Michels, a multimillionaire who co-owns the state's largest construction company, with his brother, spent at least $16 million of his own money in the contest, which was the most expensive governor's race in state history. So, that's what we have there for that. Michels has conceded from WEAU 13. Wisconsin Republican gubernatorial candidate Tim Michels has conceded to Tony Evers in the battleground state. Michels conceded early Wednesday morning with more than 90% of the expected vote. Evers held a 3-point lead. The Associated Press has not yet called the race. Well, once he's conceded, it's over, so I guess we'll see what happens with that. But that one, I think, again, was targeted specifically, and There's so many people who vote for one race and don't vote down ballot, especially if there's a major agenda to make sure that the election didn't. Let's talk about Florida. Ron DeSantis will win re-election as Florida governor, CNN projects. From Steve Contorno over at CNN. Ron DeSantis, Florida's hard-charging Republican leader who became a household name during the pandemic, will win a second term leading the Sunshine State, CNN projects, a development that will almost immediately turn the focus of his future to 2024. Thank you for the analysis, Arvold. You got good mods looking out for me. Do you have an axe, by the way? I don't even know. You're always on the D-Live side. Yeah, you do have an axe. We not only won election, we have rewritten the political map, DeSantis said in a speech on Tuesday evening after thwarting Democrat that used to be a Republican Charlie Crist's attempt to take back his old job. The governor called his re-election a win for the ages and validation of his aggressively partisan agenda. We made promises to the people of Florida, and we've delivered on those promises, DeSantis said. Today, after 4 years, the people have delivered their verdict. Freedom is here to stay, says the person who governed by executive order for the first part of his agenda. By the way, if you can hear that in the background, they're blacktopping the road out front here, further cementing my hatred of roads. The governor called, let's see. Today, after 4 years, I read that one too. Florida, he charged, was a refuge of sanity when the world went mad, where the woke goes to die, an array of hope that better days still lie ahead. Looking at the Florida race, I'll look at that one for just a sec because of the way that they ran it and the things that they did. Now, when they came into this, the first thing they said is they needed to knock DeSantis off. He's too dangerous to be in any politics anywhere, and this was according to the people who were detracted from Mr. DeSantis. When we look into this, though, when we see this, the person that they put up, I can see where, unless you are nakedly partisan or you have an agenda of vote against DeSantis no matter who, there would not be a lot of enthusiasm to vote for Charlie Crist. And I hate to say this, I think that DeSantis would have still won against Nikki Fried if Charlie Crist hadn't curb stomped her, and I do mean curb stomped her in the primary. I think the margin would have been narrower with Nikki Fried because there would have been a lot more excitement for her partisan rhetoric. There would have been a lot more attention and a lot more people from Florida coming in to do whatever they could to get their socialist ideological demagogue into her place, rather than a person who used to be a Republican. And again, I still think that DeSantis would have won. I think the margins would have been tighter with Nikki Fried. DeSantis on his historic blowout victory. Florida's where woke goes to die. We touched on that for a second. And honestly, when we look at that, I do think that that is a part of what drove that. And there are a lot of people that remind you too that Florida is America's retirement home. But the people that are going to retire in Florida as America's retirement home are the people who had the means to do so. I love my mom and dad and the decisions that they made, which were the best for my sister and I, but because of the more blue-collar situation that we grew up in, my parents are probably not going to retire to Florida. A lot of the people that are retiring to Florida are the people who ran very successful businesses, or possibly are still running successful businesses. I know somebody in Florida who's like that, where that person ran a successful business and is still going right now, but is going to places where taxes are different. And he and his wife came from fairly tax haven state as well, but with that, but the people that are going there are the people who had means, who spent their lives wishing for government to get out of the way so they could run their businesses. So I can see where that's starting to get redder, especially on somebody who promises that the new progressive things are going out the window and the old way of doing things are here to stay. Again, with the way that DeSantis ran Florida, even if I don't agree with it, the people that live in Florida do. And I do think that Nikki Fried would have closed the margin just because she'd have got the young people that do live there to get out more for their socialist ideologue. Well, they made the union, Ron, of course. And if you don't vote for the Democrat, if a union worker, well then, or the child of a union worker, well, you just hate our family because they're going to ship your dad's job overseas. That's what they did for the blue-collar people. Possibly part of the reason that we may have seen a more blowout in Florida than we've seen in the rest of the country goes on something that we talked about yesterday with the DOJ being right in there and in the polling place, having armed intimidation in polling places in several places across the country, but not in Florida. From CNN, Florida warns U.S. Justice Department that federal election monitors are not allowed inside polling places, which makes sense because that is a locality, a state-run thing, per the Constitution. From Geneva Sands and Steve Contorno. Florida officials warned the Justice Department that federal elections monitors are not allowed inside polling places under state law, pushing back against federal plans for monitors in the state. In a letter to the DOJ dated Monday, Florida state election officials argued that federal officials are not included on the list of people allowed inside polling places, even if they did qualify. It would be counterproductive and could potentially undermine confidence in the election. The DOJ announced plans to send election monitors to 24 states, including 3 counties in Florida, Broward, Miami-Dade, and Palm Beach. The practices of sending federal election monitors to local jurisdictions dates back decades. Yeah, it probably does date back decades, but again, we're in situations where there are people out there that don't know enough to come out and say, hey, this is wrong. We can't do that. But the department did not detail the need for federal monitors in these counties. Florida Department of State General Counsel Brad McVeigh wrote to the DOJ in a letter. The Florida Department of State will send its own monitors to the 3 jurisdictions, according to the letter, to ensure that there is no interference with the voting process. Honk, honk. Marco Rubio wins re-election against Demings, NBC News projects. We talked about this earlier on. Marco Rubio cruised to victory. That was an easy one in Florida, securing his 3rd term amid a statewide Democratic collapse, NBC News projects. Yeah, there's another person who's been in government for almost 2 decades. Or will be by the end of his term, I should say. Just like Ron Johnson, oddly enough. Rubio is the first Florida Republican to win 3 terms in the Senate, with 93% of precincts reporting. He also appears to have won it handily, boasting nearly 4.4 million votes, or 58%, while Demings had a slightly more than 3.1 million, or 41%. The Daily Wire reports Republican red wave stops at Florida as initial midterm tallies leave House Senate majorities in question. Let's see if anything's updated since then. 21-24 so far. nope, we're still at the same numbers that we were at before. From Greg Wilson, the red wave swept over Florida and skipped most of the rest of the nation Tuesday, leaving the GOP clinging to the hopes of a small majority in the House and control of the Senate in question. Despite polls that had Republicans hoping to capture as many as 35 seats, as the votes came in, it became clear the voters' displeasure with President Biden would not translate to any sort of GOP mandate. Definitely not a Republican wave, that's for darn sure, Lindsey Graham said as results came in. Part of his problem. He's part of the problem, I should say. Several key Senate seats Republicans hope to flip, including New Hampshire and Washington, went to incumbent Democrats. Republican J.D. Vance won a convincing decision over Tim Ryan, but that was a seat the GOP had to win because it was vacated by retiring Republican Rob Portman. Ben Shapiro tweeting out, "Okay, gang, from red wave to red wedding, okay?" Republicans hope to hold Pennsylvania, but early Wednesday, Democrat John Fetterman was projected to win the race by less than 1%, with nearly all the votes in. The hotly contested Georgia Senate seat had incumbent Raphael Warnock and the Republican challenger and former NFL great Herschel Walker neck and neck, but both under 50% and headed to a runoff in December. So that one's going to keep going. We're still in midterm season yet. Aside from a handful of races around the country and the possibility that they would still take a House majority, Republicans had only Florida to celebrate. DeSantis trounced Charlie Crist by 19 points, winning record margins for a Republican among Latino voters. In addition, Sunshine State Senator Marco Rubio easily defeated his well-funded Democrat challenger, Rep. Val Demings. Oh, wait. It's been 10 seconds. What's happening in Georgia? I hope Seawall is lurking and got to hear that one. Let's talk about Arizona. KTAR News reports Democrat Hobbs leads Republican Lake for Arizona governor. Let's look at that race for just a moment. Governor. 50.3 to 49.7, so they are within a point of each other. And within 10,000 votes of each other as well. No, outside of 10,000 votes, because I can't do math apparently. 12,000 votes separate them, with 66% reporting. Man, they're going to town on that road out there. Is there not text in this article? Or is this just a photo montage? Man, I should read articles before I put them on. But as they're leading, CNN with the editorializing right from the start. Kari Lake raises unfounded doubts about election results in the Arizona governor race. That's too early to call. From Maeve Reston. Katie Hobbs is leading Republican Kari Lake in Arizona's governor race, with a little more than half the precincts reporting. Although much could change as ballots are counted, the GOP nominee is already casting doubt about the election results. And there's a reason for that. Lake won the GOP primary after amplifying former President Trump's big lie about the 2020 presidential election, falsely insisting that the election was rigged and stolen. And though the current margins could change dramatically as votes are counted, Lake is suggesting, without any evidence, that there could be problems with Tuesday's result. Widespread voter fraud. Hobbs, the Secretary of State, rebuffed GOP efforts to overturn the results in the 2020 election. In a speech Tuesday at her election night headquarters, Lake said she felt like it's Groundhog Day. We had November 3rd, 2020. That was called Incompetency 101, Lake said. She went on to suggest there was incompetency at play, both the August primary and the Tuesday election, a not-so-subtle critique of her opponent's oversight over elections. It was not immediately clear what she was referring to, but there had been no evidence of widespread fraud We need honest elections. There's no evidence of any widespread fraud. We'll go over that in just a moment. We need honest elections, and we're going to bring them to you. Arizona, I assure you of that. The system we have right now doesn't work, Lake said. She later told supporters to be patient, and she was confident that she would win. Hobbs also addressed her backers, all 10 of them, on Tuesday night, stating the campaign was feeling good about what they were seeing. I know we're all eager to find out who won each of these incredibly important races, but we will need to be patient and wait for every vote to be counted, she said in remarks, as prepared for delivery. We know my opponent and her allies have been sowing doubt and confusion throughout the campaign, and it's unacceptable that they were spreading misinformation today while people were exercising their right to vote. All 4 GOP nominees at the top of the ticket in Arizona have echoed Trump's lies about the 2020 election. And right-wing media seized on tabulator problems in Maricopa County earlier on Tuesday to raise the idea of fraud despite assurances to the contrary from county officials. Honk honk. In a clear echo of some conservatives' repeated attempts to cast doubt on Maricopa's results in 2020. Look. And we'll be talking about this separately because I do have an article queued up for that. But I'm going to say right now, if they'd have done it in Pima County, in Yuma, or literally any place else other than Maricopa, I don't think anybody would have raised a question about this. But the problem is that it's Maricopa, the most populous county in Arizona, and the one that was also subject to problems the last time through. So forgive me if I do have some questions about this. I'm not saying that it was complete fraud. I'm saying, let me ask the question, and there is a big difference. I concede that there are people that say this is absolutely fraud. There's nothing that it couldn't be anything else. It's absolutely 100%, 1,000% fraud and nothing else. There are people out there that are saying that. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying let me ask the question. And the fact that you won't let me ask the question without calling me an election denier tells me that there might have been something else going on. From Axios. Arizona Senate and governor races may take days to call. Oh, days, you're saying. Days! From Jeremy Duda and Jessica Beam. Arizona's U.S. Senate race and all the statewide races are still too close to call. As of 0600, Katie Hobbs leads the Republican Carrie Lake in a race for governor by 50.9 to 49.1, and that has drawn in. Chairman Kelly leads Blake Masters 51.9 to 45.9. Adrian Fontes leads Mark Fincham 52.9 to 47.1. Chris Mays, AG, leads Republican Abe Hamada 50.6 to 49.4. The candidates in these races are diametrically opposed on almost every issue, especially abortion and election integrity. So there is one thing that I want to ask as we go into this too. We'll move in off of this one because we know it's going to be days and days and days on end. But I'll move off of this one, but I do have to ask the question, and this goes all the way back to 2018 in Georgia. And I think, and this would be a local thing, so you would have to push to have this happen in your locality. But if you're going to run for a statewide office other than the one that you're in, and you are the current Secretary of State, you should be forced to recuse yourself or step down or retire before you get to that point. There's no reason that Brian Kemp, and this again is me saying, liking the fact that Brian Kemp won in both 2018 and 2022, but he had no business being the nominee or the governor while being the active Secretary of State. And Katie Hobbs is in the same boat as far as I'm concerned. There's no reason that Katie Hobbs should have been sitting in her Secretary of State position, overseeing the election, whilst also being a member of that election. That seems like a conflict of interest to me. Now, there are other races where I've seen, I can say people can ascend themselves while still sitting incumbent in their seats. But literally the position where you're overseeing the election that you're trying to win, I do see that as a conflict of interest. The Associated Press reporting, Chairman Kelly takes early lead in battleground Arizona. From Jonathan J. Cooper and Bob Christie. Chairman Kelly led his Republican rival, venture capitalist Blake Masters, but the race that could determine which party controls the Senate was too early to call. Kelly's 2020 special election victory gave Democrats both of Arizona's Senate seats for the first time in 70 years. It was propelled by the state's fast-changing demographics and the unpopularity of then-President Trump. He's so unpopular. Most unpopular president in history, you guys. This time, the unpopular President Biden is from Kelly's own party, and the environment looks less favorable to Democrats. The Arizona race is one of a handful of contests Republicans targeted in their bid to take control of what is now a 50-50 Senate. It's a test of the inroads that Kelly and other Democrats have made in the state, once reliably dominated by Republicans, and will offer clues about whether Democratic success here was an aberration during the Trump presidency or an enduring phenomenon. But why are we questioning this? Even if it means we're racist, bigot, homophobe, anti-woman, anti-abortion, Islamophobic, Christo-fascist, or whatever other label they're putting on us because we ask a question. Arizona election officials report issues with vote counting machines at 20% of polling locations in Maricopa County. So it's not just one machine. It's at a full fifth of the locations in the county that gave us problems last time around. I'm not saying something bad is happening. I'm just saying, let me ask the question. Maricopa County Board of Supervisors Chairman Bill Gates, hopefully it's not that Bill Gates, reported on Tuesday morning that approximately 20% of the voting centers in Arizona's largest county are experiencing issues with vote counting tabulators. Dominion. About 20% of the locations where... Go away, advertisement. About 20% of the location out there where there's an issue with the tabulator, where some of the ballots that after people have voted them, they try to run them through the tabulator and they're not going through, Gates said. That actually happened while I was debating whether or not I could vote for Ron Johnson or not. Is that the alarm went off because somebody threw their ballot into the machine. It was a little old lady threw her ballot into the machine, and it kicked it back, and it made all kinds of lights and sounds, and apparently she had her hearing aid off because she didn't hear all the lights and sounds. She was already in the next room, and they started yelling for her a bunch of times, and she didn't turn around and come back. Let's listen.
We've got about 20% of the locations out there where there's an issue with the tabulator, where some of the ballots that after people have voted them, they try and run them through the tabulator and they're not going through. But the good thing is we do, first of all, we're trying to fix this problem as quickly as possible, and we also have a redundancy in place. If you can't put the ballot in the tabulator, then you can simply place it here in where you see the number 3, and this is a secure box where those ballots will be kept for later this evening, where we'll bring them in here to Central Count to tabulate them.
So this would function much like early voting functions, in that we would get your ballot back. Once we've signature verified it, we would send it to our central tabulators. Ballots that are in here will already be, in effect, signature verified, so we won't need to confirm identity, but we will central tabulate them. This is actually what the majority of Arizona counties do on election day all the time.
Gates said that if the tabulator does not accept a ballot, voters can place their ballots inside a secure box, and they will be manually counted in the evening at a central counting location. A majority of Arizona counties tabulate ballots this way, Gates added. This will function much like early voting functions in that we would get your ballot back. Once we've signature verified it, we would send it to our central tabulators, Gates said. Ballots that are at the central location will already be signature verified, so we don't need to confirm identity, but we will central tabulate them. And again, I have questions about this. What do we have going on here? Because it does appear that there are some shenanigans going on in my chat. Because I can see everybody. I actually can see everybody in both the restream chat and here, but we are saying that there are issues on the YouTube side where people's stuff isn't showing up. And I wonder why. Let me look at something here quick. So if I need to write a letter to YouTube, I need to figure out what it is I'm writing. And maybe it's just because this is my channel and I'm in this, so I've got mod powers. But I mean, I can see everything right now. But yes, I can also see where it doesn't look like everybody came through either. So no, we've got Ron Helton over there too. That was the one that I wanted to look at. I don't know. I have no idea. I can't answer for that. Voters across the county took to social media to report tabulator malfunctions at multiple Maricopa locations. Residents captured videos of election workers announcing the issues with the vote counting machines. We have 2 tabulators. One of the tabulators is not working. An election worker at one Maricopa voting center explained to voters waiting in line to cast their ballots. The other tabulator is taking about 75% successful, so 25% of them are being misread. So you have 2 tabulators not working. Is that what you're telling me? And it could be a printer issue, or it could be a tabulator itself. So when it's misread, you have the option to put it in what's called box 3, and it gets read, whether it goes downtown or it gets read manually, or whether it gets refed into our tabulator. And it's oddly enough only in your most populous county, encompassing Phoenix. And nobody else is having an issue. Once again, I'm not saying malice, but I'm saying I have questions. This is the video that came up yesterday.
Everybody wants to make sure that it reads and everything is fine.
Can you repeat that?
I can promise
Can
you.
Can you start from the beginning and repeat that?
So what happens is we have 2 tabulators. One of the tabulators is not working. Okay. The other tabulator is taking about 75% successful. So 25% of them are being misread, and it could be a printer issue. Or it could be the tabulator itself. So when it's misread, you have an option to put it into what's called box 3, and it gets read, whether it goes downtown and gets read manually, or whether it gets refed into our tabulator.
We don't want to adjudicate.
They get read.
No.
Okay? So no one's trying to deceive anybody.
Of course not. Not on election day. That would never happen, right? No, that would never happen.
So choices are, you guys. Sure.
If I get up there and that happens to my ballot, can I take my ballot with me and go somewhere else and
You
do it?
cannot leave the premises with a ballot. Sorry, and there's not like you can go
Because
to
I don't trust to go in a box. The box may never make
No,
it down there.
no
That happens
way.
all the time.
The choice is-
I'll come back.
the choice is to wait until
Which, and again, I don't know how it goes in Arizona, because I know there are some states where they put a bunch of districts all into like a big sports stadium or whatnot. But I know, like, here in Wisconsin, and redacted, where I live, the choice would be to go to, I mean, you don't have a choice. There's only one place that you can go. There's not multiple polling locations you can go to. Because they give you the ballots with our municipal races on them as well. Not just the statewide things. So, but of course it's Maricopa County. And of course, we can't question this. From Fox News, Maricopa County, Blake Masters, Kerry Lake, RNC sue after hiccups at Arizona voting locations. I would. I definitely would. From Tyler Olson. The campaign for Republican gubernatorial candidate Kerry Lake, U.S. Senate candidate Blake Masters, and the RNC are suing Maricopa, Arizona over issues with voting tabulation machines. The GOP lawsuit seeks to keep polls open until 10 p.m. Mountain Time in the county. It also asks the state to instruct the inspector at every polling location that voters whom the e-poll book have recorded as having previously voted in this election must be permitted to complete and cast a provisional ballot. Fox News previously reported Tuesday that many polling sites in the county were experiencing problems. Unfortunately, we've had some hiccups with about 20% of these tabulators, Chairman of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors Bill Gates told Fox News. The GOP lawsuit said that the issue has hit at least 36% of voting centers. All in one county. And again, all in the county that had the same issues last time through. Gates said the issue happened when people tried to run their ballots through the tabulator but had ballots spit back out at them. After the lawsuit was filed, Gates said it would not impact county operations unless officials hear from the court. The Republican group behind the lawsuit also asked the court to instruct the inspector at every polling location that voters who choose to spoil their ballot and leave the voting center without casting a ballot must be checked out in the electronic poll book. So, you either sit there and you wait in the line forever as they come back to try to fix a machine that had issues 2 years ago, or you say, the hell with it, I'm not voting. This sounds honky honk honk. Tabulation Center officials said earlier Tuesday they found a solution to the issue. Maricopa has identified the solution for the tabulation issues at about 60 vote centers. County technicians have changed their printer settings, which seem to resolve the issue. One official said it appears that some of the printers were not producing dark enough timing marks on the ballot. But the GOP lawsuit alleges that the so-called hiccups effectively decreased voters' opportunity to cast ballots, and that the county needed to fix that by keeping the polls open longer, which, yes, they should have. They absolutely should have. But it was denied. Maricopa County judge denies motion to extend poll hours to 10. The RNC has filed an emergency motion to extend poll hours in Maricopa. A judge denied the motion. Polling locations will still close at 1900 hours. Some locations throughout the valley experienced long wait times Tuesday after voting machine issues. The RNC is joining a Republican coalition to file an emergency motion to extend poll hours at Maricopa because voting machines in over 25% of the polling locations have experienced significant issues, according to Ronna McDaniel. Yeah, who could have seen that coming? Who could have seen that coming? A video that goes with this go behind the scenes of Maricopa's ballot processing operation. So they're going to show you how it is that they screwed everything up. Let's watch.
Let's check out west. As you said, the two states, two of the four we're watching for questions about control of the Senate. And in Maricopa County, of course, as John just said, 61% of the votes there in the state. We know that they have completed the day of voting, but right now they're sorting through the early ballots, the ballots that were dropped off. Actually, some video tweeted by the Maricopa County Elections Commission of the machines actually scanning the signatures on those ballots. We have the video of the machinery actually working to show that they are scanning those ballots, staging them. So what will happen over the next several hours is that they will compare the signatures on these ballots that are going through this machine to what they have on file to determine the validity of those ballots. Those will be added to the count. We're told that we will not get an updated report on a count from Maricopa County until this evening. So that county, the great tranche of votes there in the state, will be on hold for a while.
We're going to have a ticker on the screen.
Let's check out west, as you said.
So that's how the whole thing works. And again, the problem is that you're not even allowed to ask the question. It's not the problem of whether or not something was done with malice, something was done on accident, something was done that caused a change in the results. The problem is always that you're not allowed to ask the question. Honk honk. We are running out of time, and we still have a few more that I want to get to today, but I don't think that we're going to. Looks like Boebert will be gone, though. We'll get to that one. Boebert and Frisch in close race in 3rd Congressional District. From Jennifer Campbell Hicks over at 9 News NBC out of Colorado. U.S. Rep. Lauren Boebert was looking for her first re-election to the U.S. House on Tuesday as she found herself in a close race with Adam Frisch in Colorado's 3rd Congressional District, which that one surprises me. It both does and doesn't surprise me at the same time. The reason that one both does and doesn't surprise me is the fact that as far as primary turnout went, I mean, there was a blowout for Boebert compared to Adam Frisch in primary numbers. And if you compare primary numbers to what the actual outcome was, I mean, Boebert should have taken this one walking away. But I'm also not entirely surprised because it's deep, deep blue Colorado. You know, the first state to legalize it. Legalize it, brother! And it took a lot of people who spent most of their lives just smoking weed and not doing anything else, who went off and migrated to Colorado in... When did they go back and do that? I forget when they legalized it. Wasn't it like 08 or something? When did Colorado legalize it? $2012. November of 2012. Peace, brother. Legalize it. Only about 7,000 votes separated the two candidates late Tuesday, with Frisch in the lead. Boebert remained optimistic in a speech to her supporters, saying that some results from Mesa County may not be counted until Wednesday. I'm so optimistic, Boebert said to her supporters Tuesday night. It is absolutely trending in our favor. We're excited. We're excited where we are. Frisch said in an interview with 9 News, sister station KRDO. I think we run a really good campaign. I'm not a chest-beating type of person. I'm certainly not going to over my skis, as we say, Frisch said. We'll see how the rest of the night plays out, but I'd rather be in our position than Representative Boebert's position right now. Yeah. Again, I'm both surprised and not surprised by this one. We have here makes me think how football refs make a standard operating procedure to hold off on the whistle because they can review the play later, but only if they let the play continue. If they blow the whistle too early, play stops. What was the harm in leaving the polling stations open longer? Why didn't the judge grant reasonable request, a request which addresses a genuine problem? Because honk honk. That's why. Because Carrie Lake must never be allowed to enter the governor's mansion. Ever. Because she supports the big lie. Because we have to keep tweets like this accurate. That's why. Fetterman has won. Dr. Oz has conceded. Which means that, yes, the state of Pennsylvania voted to be represented by a person who can't form a coherent sentence. And I said yesterday when we did our final analysis, I think Shapiro was going to take him over the line. I think, like, on polling, when they were just looking at Senate candidates, I think that that Fetterman lost a lot of ground without Shapiro being off of this on the ballot. But with both of them being on the same ballot, I think Josh Shapiro carried him over the line. Abbott curb stomped Beto. So we will be looking forward to seeing what Beto's next attempt is. And Hochul over Zeldin by under 5%. That was one of the last ones. And I do have to get out of here for the day, but that was one of them that I did want to look at before we go. And it does also look like there's going to be a runoff in Georgia. Let's look at the gubernatorial race in New York. 5.4%. for Kathy Hochul with 93% reporting in a state that has New York City. This should have been a blowout. This should have been a 25-point spread. And this is part of the reason that I have questions about a lot of this. It's not the fact that I think my questions will overturn this. I had no doubt that Kathy Hochul was going to be the next governor of New York. But when the ideas in New York are so bad, so poor, that you can't get 90% of people to support them, when 90% of the people in your state live in a deep blue Democratic stronghold echo chamber, you've got bigger problems in your party. And there's some cracks in your armor. And you can sit back and honk and honk and honk and honk until your heart's content. But this race right here is showing that maybe JoJo from Jers is wrong, and it's actually the let the government come in and take control of every aspect of your life that is losing ground in this country. And there we have a 0.6% lead with Hobbs over Lake. A little over 12,000. With only 2/3 reporting. Again, my biggest problem is not the fact that these people are winning or losing in spite of the polls. My biggest problem is the fact that you're not allowed to question it. And I think at that point, I think we're done. Let's look at a final tally and see what's happening with that. 46-47 coming in. Yeah, Johnson's going to win that one. Laxalt's going to win that one. So that'll bring us up to 49. And Alaska there. So GOP is going to grab 50 for sure. Democrats are going to have 48. I don't know where our other two Senate seats are. I'm trying to figure that out right now. Because I only see 98 on the board. A little concerned about that, actually. Kind of would be nice to see Blake Masters come and pick this one back up. And again, maybe see if the Kerry Lake effect carries him over, which I thought for sure it was going to. This is going to be runoff territory, but yeah, we'll see what happens with that and where we go off of that. Let's head out of here for the day. Before we go, I do just want to take a moment and thank everybody who is here, and I do want to say a special thanks to the moderators on both the Discord side and the live chat side, because I think most of the people are the same monitors in both positions. But we did get a Discord raid last night. We had a bunch of people who came in and decided that they were going to be going off and having some fun, let's say. While we were watching this, while we were doing the live stream last night, we had a group of people who decided they were going to come back out and bomb. They all got in the Discord all at the same time, which means it was probably coordinated at some point. Which, speaking of the Discord, I do have to pull roles back off somebody. Because only myself and Grant should have the host roles. Grant because he does my server maintenance, and myself because, well, I'm the host. But looking in and seeing some of this stuff, just the fact that people were on top of it, and I didn't know what was happening as far as the text-to-speech, and I don't know how we got text-to-speech in. I am going to get a crash course in Discord and figure that back out, because we can't be having that on a live stream. We just can't be having that. That's not a thing that's supposed to be happening, especially on a text-based platform. So, but the people that were in there on the Discord side were right there with the delete. They didn't do the mutes, which if you're deleting messages like that, you do need to be muting as well for some of these people for breaking the rules, especially if you're using text-to-speech while you're on a live stream. But the fact that they were in there deleting right on top of it going, and I did elevate a couple more people up to mod because I saw that they were online and I knew they were trustworthy, but to try to keep us back in a position where we could do these kinds of things. There are different places that you've got to be watching while you're doing stuff live, especially if you're going against the preferred narrative. While you have people like that actively trying to get you shut down on various platforms. I can't believe I still have a Twitch right now. I really can't believe that right now. I thought for sure that as soon as that first N-word slipped through, I was done. I kind of thought I was going to have my third strike on YouTube too. But yeah, the people out there making sure that the bad actors who are out there are in check and know what it is that they're supposed to be doing. Thank you for that. Thank you for Seawall for disabling my text-to-speech. And that's one other thing too. I'm fairly lenient as far as what happens in my Discord, because I do want you to be able to discuss sensitive topics. I do want you to be able to come back out and talk about what's happening in the world and how you feel about things without worry of real-world repercussions. That's how I've always been right from the beginning. But as we were going with that, forgot where I was going with that, what I was saying. I completely spaced on what I was just saying. That's, well, I'm running on almost no sleep, too. Anyway, I am thankful for the people who are out there that try to keep these things running smoothly, keep things going, because, you know, I can't go back and do it all myself. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. There's a lot of stuff moving. There's a lot of machination going. And, as we've noticed, while I do this kind of programming, I don't interact with the live chat during the stream because I know that we're on a limited time crunch. Now, if we move to an afternoon show, which looks like might be happening, I may be able to interact more because we're not going to be on that big deadline that I've got to run out the door and go to my other job right away. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's going to be a conversation for the future as soon as we have the announcements ready for that. But we're going to head out of here for the day. Let's get the live music up and let's go. By the way, I had to cut off at that one. I enjoy that cover from Final Fantasy VII, the Celius cover. And I don't know anything about the character that they're doing theme for because I've never played Final Fantasy VII, but I enjoy that. But we're out of here for the day. Thanks everybody who came by and chatted and hung out in the live chat. Everybody who was here last night, here this morning, here for the analysis, and here trying to figure out what's going on with the live chat across the platforms. We will see what's happening with that and what we have to fix for that. And if I have to write a nasty letter to YouTube, then we'll have to write a nasty letter to YouTube. We'll be back here tomorrow with more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. Definitely looking forward to seeing some more of that and seeing what it is you guys have to say about the midterms as we get more results trickling in. We will see you here then. Stick around if you're on the Twitch side for the raid. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.